Okay, now in this section, we're kind of going to try to wrap a lot of it together. So far, if you're saying, okay, you've introduced the idea of mindfulness with some definitions, you showed me some scientific studies that show some potentially some of the positive benefits of mindfulness and the negative consequences if we don't really work on or achieve our own mindfulness in our lives. And you've given me some interesting, thought-provoking Eastern concepts that may not be a part of our kind of knowledge base right now. We haven't been exposed to or taught about. So what are some tips? So I don't know where you are in your journey, but if you're starting from scratch and you just know that mindfulness is something you should look into, or if you're way years down the road on your journey, here are some ways and things that you can do to start, from my opinion. Actually, this is a beautiful mural from Venice Beach in California. I didn't even realize that this existed. I was just walking around visiting some friends and came across this, and of course I immediately noticed Alan Watts popping out here, because that's I derive a lot of my wisdom coming from Alan Watts. But you've got Carl Sagan here, and Terence McKenna, of course Einstein, and so forth, and so many great thought leaders over the years, and they just did this huge beautiful mural about them, and Rumi's on there. And then I just got stopped in my tracks. I'm like, I can't believe that there's a mural in California that has Alan Watts on it. So I think it's a beautiful building, and it's, to me, it was a synchronistic sign to make sure I incorporate some of these aspects into my life. But if you're asking yourself, obviously you can research all these people and then see what their wisdom is, but where should you get started in your day-to-day life? Let's kind of go through some specific comments and ideas, and I can give you to get started. So we'll kind of go through, as I mentioned, I do lead a mindful community of people who want to go deep on some of these topics, or over the course of every month, we kind of really go deep on one specific topic. I send out videos from some of those thought leaders I just showed you for discussion and hopefully help you on your journey. And then hopefully a lot of these ideas kind of build on top of each other as we go through. So I do like to start it in September. It runs year-round, but start in September because I like to time the first concept, which I believe is letting go, which is one of the most fundamental concepts, I believe, in a lot of mindfulness, with the timing of when the leaves start to fall. Because if the trees trust to let go of their leaves, if you know the science behind photosynthesis and stuff like that, there is nothing more valuable to a tree than their leaves to support their life. And if they know enough to trust the universe and trust nature to let go of their leaves completely, and trust that will be a better outcome for them over a harsh winter than to try to control the situation and hold on to their leaves, which may cause snow and ice and stuff to break their branches or really hurt them more than just letting go and go into a protective mode. That's kind of why I like to time it there. But the first thing I would have you look at and think about is this idea of letting go, which is, as I mentioned a little bit in the earlier ones, you don't need to control everything. Our society has trained us, and the media has trained us, that the more control you have, the more happy you will be. And I don't believe that's true. I actually believe the opposite is true. And I see many examples. So you just have to trust that. And I'm not saying not have direction in life, not have goals, not have objectives, but try not to force and control specifically other people in the process. So and I see this all the time, you'll probably see it on social media, if you believe the next post about political memes or political contact, or one more comment on one side of the political spectrum or the other is going to really convince everyone and solve everything, then you are completely wrong and you don't understand the idea of letting go. Letting go says you may not be able to control what other people think and do and choose to do. You can only control what you do, and one of the best things you can do is try to let go of the need to try to control everybody else. Another one I would do, which kind of goes more towards the savoring aspect we talked about, kind of fits into November, the spontaneity of nature, which is just savoring the moment. So from that scientific study, you can see that slowing down a little bit, pausing, reflecting, really being present, that's part of mindfulness. Is we're in such a rush. I kind of view it as like everyone's almost playing The Amazing Race. So when you watch The Amazing Race, you're like, oh, those are some really neat locations that they're traveling to, but they don't enjoy a single one of them because they don't take any time to really enjoy being there, because they're in a rush to win the competition or get to the end. I think that's a great metaphor for this, which is to slow down, pause, actually be present, actually enjoy where you are, and that'll help you kind of learn to read the tea leaves and kind of get in the synchronicity with nature and the flow of things, and then you'll kind of feel more a part of the world and flowing with it than almost like trying to swim upstream and resisting it. So these are two concepts I think if you're going to get started, you can really, one is try not to control everything and everybody. And two is to really slow down. It's almost goes to that savoring study. Savor things a little bit more, really enjoy being present where you are, and then enjoy the little perks and beauties of life, the things that other people may miss if they're in such a rush. But whether it's stopping in the street to hear someone singing or an artist playing, or stopping to check beautiful nature or flowers, or going for a hike, or just enjoying the sound of the wind through the trees. Focusing on these two things will help allow you to be more present, get you out of your head trying to focus on the past or the future, and keep you more centered to where you are and I think where you want to be. Some other concepts we kind of go into, towards the winter, kind of, is one is trying to figure out what it is that you want. This is the hardest question, and it can take you years and years and years to do it. But you really need to figure out what it is that you want, which sounds like an oxymoron versus completely letting go and flowing. But a lot of it is, where do you want to try to make the world better? And so when you ask people really what they want, one of the most honest answers is, I really don't know, because you haven't thought about it a whole lot. When you start to think about it, you're like, well, I think I'd like, this kind of car, I'd like to live in this house and make this kind of money and so forth. And that's kind of almost thinking about it superficially. And if you were to achieve all those things, I think it's, even Alan Watts and some others say, well, they want you to achieve that. Deepak Chopra says, I want you to achieve those goals so you realize that that's not what you want and that's not going to make you happy. Someone who I listen to a lot, Philip McKernan, talks about, like, what a shame to climb a mountain all the way to the top, only to realize when you get to the top that you've been climbing the wrong mountain the whole time. So it's very important to figure out, what do you want out of life? And that may not be high goal things as far as money. Maybe I want to really make sure I spend a lot of time with my kids while they're young. That's something that's very important to me right now, which is they seem to be growing up so fast, and I know it's going to go super fast before they're out of the house and doing their own things and too busy with their friends to hang out with mom and dad. But these are the things that I want in the short term. Another idea we're going to go into in February, because I think February is obviously the month of love, and there's not enough self-love. And obviously, if you're not in a relationship or not completely happy with your relationship, that can be a very difficult month for you. But it's this idea of this kind of self-love, and just trust that, yes, you are enough, and that you do have within yourself everything you need. I think Alan Watts likes to say is, everyone looks for him to be a guru or a teacher, and he says, I'm not your guru, because a guru tries to make you better, and you are already, where you should be. You're already perfect. We'll get to that one here in a second. So these two, I would say, is trying to figure out, kind of have a North Star for your life, or what it is you want to do and accomplish, and then just trust that you're enough to get there. Later we like to go into one, I think another one you should focus on is just allow yourself to be imperfect. And you can see that again in social media. We don't share anything about our lives unless it's the most perfect things. You take 10 pictures of your family to share the one perfect one in which everyone's looking at the camera and everyone's smiling. And that's not real reality. That's not real life. So you almost have to be able to brace the imperfection that everyone has within themselves, and then choose to be imperfect and trust that being imperfect is going to be, that vulnerability of being imperfect is going to help you connect better with people and flow better with people, rather than the opposite, which is trying to put on this mask, something that's not, authentically you. Put on this mask of a person who is perfect or behaving perfect or acts perfect in a certain way to somebody else's standard. Like, that person is not living a life that's truly authentic to themselves, and then following that path is not going to make you happy. By embracing your vulnerabilities and your imperfection and just being vulnerable with it to others, that's what's going to help you move on your journey further. Just by saying, I know I'm not perfect, and I'm embracing not being perfect. And then some of the other ones we get to, and towards the end I mentioned a little bit of Yugen. We actually spend a whole month at Yugen, and we also do talk about The Secret of Life as I Know It. I think something that came up to me is, I've been on this journey for, I would say, my 20s. I'm not the mindfulness person in my 20s. I was scientific, show me some data, show me some numbers, and I still obviously have a bend towards that, as I showed you some of the studies earlier. But I was just so unaware of this kind of stuff, and then in my 30s is when I really started to go deep in this, after my life kind of getting derailed with a divorce and stuff like that. Around the age of 30, I really said, okay, I got to figure out what I'm doing what's really success look like to me, and that's where I kind of discovered my own mindful journey. And then as I'm now in my 40s and having a family and kids, I've come to the point where realizing that life is short, and we're really going to embrace it while we have it. And so one of the thoughts is like, by in my 40s, I should probably have some kind of concept or theory, hypothesis as to what I believe the secret of life is. And then hopefully I can try to teach people and help share that to hopefully it'll help them out. Or if it doesn't fit them, then hopefully it spurs them to go out and create their own hypothesis of what they believe the secret of life is to help them on their journey. But from this set, the one that I would focus on, because we kind of touched upon you again, is this idea of going on your spiritual journey but coming back. So I was listening to some people like Tim Story, who's like, one of the life coaches for even Oprah and so forth, and many Hollywood stars. What he says is, once you have your breakthrough, whether that's spiritually, financially, on any aspect of your life, this is something I constantly think about, is make sure you reach back and pull other people through. So whether that is getting out of poverty or overcoming depression or overcoming hard times, we always, again, it gets to this idea of perfection. You're like, I don't think I can go help anyone until I solve all of my problems. And that is not just true. Once you've had a small breakthrough that helps you along your way, make sure you look back, reach back, and try to pull other people through and help them along the way, because you only have to be one step ahead of people to really help them on their journey, and you may be the one thing that they need to help them overcome that step that's the barrier or obstacle in their life too. So that's why we spend a whole month here on the idea of absolutely, not in a selfish way, but it's like, go on your spiritual journey, go as deep as you want into it, but make sure you come back to society and just reapply it. Don't just go off in your own bliss and say, I'm going to do my own thing and never interact with the world again and not worry about other people. That's not true. Take what you learn and the wisdom that comes from it and figure out ways where you could help other people overcome the hardest points in their life. Again, someone that I listen to and follow is Philip McKernan, and he kind of talks about, your gift of what you have to give other people always lies next to some of the toughest times you went through. And that's why a lot of people don't discover the gift that they want to give to the world, is because they're too afraid to go back and look at their 5 worst days and kind of figure out, do the work to figure out, well, what made those the worst days for me? How did that make me struggle or create some obstacles for me in my life? And then if you figure out how to overcome some of those, trust that you can go back and help other people who may be in the same situation, who are stuck and lost and lonely or hurt as you were in the situation, and know that you can help them too. So these are just some initial ideas that I think how I would try to incorporate some mindfulness into your days and your lives, whether it's picking up a routine, just stopping and savoring things more. You don't have to go all the way to have like a full meditation or mindful practice. A mindful walk in the woods could do that if you're very present and listening to the sounds and the birds, and then really just savoring the things that you experience. So I hope this is helpful for you, and if you're at all interested in going deeper on these topics, check out some of the links below if you want to join our mindful community and connect with other like-minded people and continue on our journey to see how we can best help each other kind of really accomplish the goals we want in life, and then really kind of look at reducing the regrets we may have at the end of our life if we're not able to overcome the greatest obstacle in our own lives, which I believe to be our own minds and our own thinking, more than anything external, any pandemic, any economic swing, or any hardship we could face. It's our own brain and our own mind that'll hold us back the most. Thanks so much.